The Hedgeless Horseman here. I thought I'd talk a bit about Irving Resources and why I like the stock so much. First of all, people involved, Quinton Henney, who is obviously one of the best exploration geologists in the world, and pretty much only goes after really big targets. Then we got Hidetoshi Takaoka, who is the chief mining engineer for Irving. He's obviously Japanese, and he has a long history of working with Sumitomo Metal Mining Company, and he was actually involved in early exploration at the Hishikari mine, which is the highest grade gold mine in the world, and it's located in Japan. He also was responsible for the discovery of the world-class Pogo mine in Alaska. So this is a real geologist, and perhaps the second best geologist to have outside Quinton Henney, given that it's in Japan. What I also like is, first of all, that Japan is on the ring of fire and has quite a few proven mines, multi-million ounce mines already, and it's not even seen modern exploration. So I mean, if it's virtually untouched in the last decades, and they still got operating mines that were found a long time ago. And as we can see here, we have a mine that's located in Hokkaido, which is where most of Irving's projects are. So that's obviously a big positive. And then there is I guess the problem with Japan is that they're very green, that it would be hard to permit some kind of heap leach operation or a big mine development with processing plant and stuff like that. But that's also, I guess, one of the good things about Irving, that they have picked their targets based on the environmental context in the country. So they haven't just staked a bunch of ground and basically, which might have no hopes of succeeding because the ore would be too toxic with too much arsenic or whatever. No, they've actually picked their projects based around the environmental context of Japan. So that's a great first step. And the plan is basically to find silica-rich gold ores and have them shipped directly to smelters, and then they would get paid for the quotation marks waste rock and about 95% of the gold value. So you get paid for the silica rocks and most of the gold. You wouldn't need a plant, no mill, etc. So I mean the capex would be very low for Irving relative to conventional mines where the processing plant might cost hundreds of millions of dollars. So I take that as a very positive, in the sense that the threshold for success would be much less for Irving than your typical junior. They could be shipping ore quite fast and would get paid for most of the gold and also the silica as smelter flux. So it probably won't be one of these scenarios where you drill a deposit and the capex is say 300 million plus, and you'll have to wait years for permits, and even if you get permits, it will be a hassle to raise the money, and the dilution would be endless, like we've seen in a lot of juniors. And here are all the smelters in the country, so no shortage of smelters. And here are basically the criteria that Irving used for picking their projects, with again the help of Japanese geologist veterans. And this is basically the overall model that they're chasing. They're looking for low sulfidation epithermal veins, and as you can see here at the top of this ore chute there's a sinter, and that's basically a quartz cap, because when fluids reach the surface it got solidified and then trapped the fluids that came after. And here they have marked the boiling zone where the potential is for some real bonanza grade gold. This is some ore from the Hishikari mine, and they're finding stuff that looks like this on the Omo project. And here they have it marked hypothetical bonanza gold zone. So we, as I will talk about a bit later, we know we have a very, very big sinter, and they're finding new sinters actually as well in other places. The thing we will be drilling and aiming for is basically to hit this boiling zone bonanza gold target. And so even though we know we have a big sinter, etc., we still have to find these zones with the drill bit. And of course we don't know if they are indeed gold bearing, but given the fact that they found quite high gold values near this sinter, I think it means that the odds are pretty good for us. And these are all the projects they've acquired thus far, and I mean those are district scale targets. So I think the first project, the Omo project, looks, I mean, it looks like it could be a real company maker in itself. And then they have a huge pipeline of projects. So if whatever happens to Omo, we have a lot of backup plans, or if we get taken over, we could probably get a big premium if we sell the whole company, because we get so much first mover advantage, stake the ground, and if Omo basically shows proof of concept for Japan gold mining overall, I mean, I think since most of the projects are quite near, I think they could get a big premium in a takeover. Here's a closer look on the projects. This is the Omo project. Here they're showing some geophysics slides, or not geophysics slides, this is actually Bleg results, where they basically measure gold in stream, fine gold component. So it's not supposed to give high readings, but you can see that there's a gold low, if you can call it that, around the two legacy mining centers, or two legacy mines, and then the Omo Sinter. And these basically are connected. There's more sampling. I'll get back to this graben thing later, but here you can see the Omo Sinter and what they believe is a graben, basically a down-thrown block, which would lead to potential cracks around between the up-thrown blocks and the down-thrown block. And last year, January 2018, Jayant Bandari wrote a few words about Irving. He said he recently visited the project, the Omo project. Based on my back of the envelope calculations, should have at least 60,000 in the high grade veins that are visible. So that's just what outcrops basically. So you can see the veins, you know the gold is there. This rock can be scooped off and shipped to a processing facility of Mitsui. This by itself should justify the current market capitalization of Irving. The share price at the time was 78 cents. So this was over a year ago, and just back then what they saw on the surface, he estimated it would basically make up equivalent value of whatever market cap Irving was back then at 78 cents. And I mean, a lot of stuff has happened since then, but it's not often you have a stock or a company that has so many outcropping veins at surface that are high grade. So it's not like, I mean, most juniors, they find a rock chip sample here and there, and perhaps some is high grade or whatever. They actually are finding a lot of veins outcropping at surface, and that's just the first project. There's some very interesting historic information in the technical report as well. Like this, a single trench was excavated at the Nanko prospect and revealed 4 quartz veins ranging from 2 to 50 meters thick. A total of 6 rock chip samples were collected and returned 4.2 to 90.76 grams per ton gold and 18 to 745 grams per ton silver. So one trench revealed 4 quartz veins who were 2 to 50 meters thick and had grades up to 90 grams per ton gold and 745 grams per ton silver. I mean, most juniors would kill to find something like this on surface. And then these are the interesting news releases since that, those comments made by Jayant Bandari. This one, October 19, Irving Resources samples high-grade float at its Omo gold-silver project, Hokkaido, Japan. As you can see, high-grade to bonanza gold grades, same with silver. This is really rich stuff. And here's a new news release shortly after Jayant Bandari made those comments. Irving defines strong geophysical anomalies at its Omo gold-silver project, Hokkaido, Japan. They basically flew a drone-based magnetic survey and whatnot. And also, I mean, it's worth noting that the Omo Sinter, which is the first project to be drilled now, was actually not known when they staked the ground. So that's basically a bonus discovery that seems to be the top priority nowadays. And I think that says quite a bit about the potential. So this is the basically the Omo Sinter, and this is the magnetic readings. And as Irving talks about in the presentation, the low magnetic readings suggest that the rocks here have had their magnetite components obliterated by hydrothermal fluids. So the magnetism is basically gone. And that's a good sign, because as you probably know, we want to have a lot of hydrothermal fluids to create a big target. This is from June 27. Irving Resources expands Sinter target at its Omo AG project, Hokkaido, Japan. There's a lot of stuff, but I mean, just listen to this. Data highlights a well-defined zone of anomalous low magnetism extending from the coast near the Omo Sinter southward for nearly 10 kilometers. So low magnetism might suggest again that a lot of hydrothermal fluids has been pumped through that area, and it extends for nearly 10 kilometers. So this is an obvious low, as you can see here. And it's interesting because it seems to connect basically to the Omui mine here. And here we get the Hokario mine. And this is a gravity slide, and this suggests there's a big structure running like this. So basically around the grub and in the middle. So if you have a big crack in the earth in the crust between the grub and the, I think it's called a horst when it's the upthrown block. But anyway, so these structures are an area where fluids can come up from deeper from the ground. So you have this gravity slide. It makes it look like there is a big structure in the ground that connects the Omu mine to the Omu sinter. And then you have this magnetic slide, which suggests that there's a big gravity low around the Omu sinter. So basically where there are low readings, it suggests that hydrothermal fluids has been pumped through the area and obliterated the magnetite. So I mean, I guess you can understand why Irving are so excited about this target, because I mean, this is multi-kilometer long. And I mean, it extends for quite some time. So they had a mine down here, and if you compare the readings with the Omu sinter, I mean, if the Omu mine was good enough to mine back then, what does it say about the potential of this multi-kilometer strike of even lower magnetic readings? And again, the Omu sinter is just one of the targets. They're finding new stuff all the time, which I can show in the presentation. So here are more slides of the gravity readings, where they have mapped where they think there are structures that would have allowed hydrothermal fluids to get pumped up. And I mean, again, the Omu sinter is just part of all the areas where we might find gold-bearing rocks. Here's the Hompai and Nanko prospect, and here you have that again, that magnetic low. I think here's a close-up of the Omu sinter, and here are more sampling results where they look for pathfinder elements as arsenic and stuff like that. Here are some high-grade rock chip samples, and I mean, look at the grades. High-grade veins at Hompai. This is not from Hishikari. This is stuff that Irving's actually finding. And here you got Ginguro, and that's the same stuff they're finding at Hishikari. And this is the Hokuryu prospect in the Omu project. High-grade stuff, and high-grade gold and silver. And this is an interesting slide, the Hokuryu West target. I think that's one of the newer prospects they found. You can see the roads here in black. So take this area for example. I mean, the roads won't obviously be following the exact veins. So I mean, just to find such high-grade samples from an arbitrarily area where there is a road that's plowed through the earth. I mean, that's kind of bonkers. And here you get the Hokuryu mine, and these areas are basically untouched. And I mean, you get it's just riddled with high-grade rocks, and this is 1.6 kilometers. Again, that's one of the targets. And the silver grades, really good, really high silver grades, and consistently high, which is, I guess, the most interesting thing. Here's basically an overview of the OMO project. So we have confirmed mines here and here. We have the OMO Sinter, which is looks like it's a really big target. I know Quinton said it's might be the biggest sinter he has seen, which suggests that a lot of fluids were pumped through that area, and that gravity and that magnetic low extends for quite a few kilometers, and it basically connects to the OMO mine, which is again confirmed gold bearing. And then we have this area which are finding all this in, and the exploration timeline for Irving this year is really exciting. So they're drill testing the OMO Sinter, doing that now, and then there will be trenching and prospecting, and I mean this year should be quite packed with news flow, and if they hit in the OMO Sinter, that might make the stock go bananas, because it looks like it's a very, very, very big target. And just lastly, another news release, February 22nd, 2018. I mean, they're finding new targets all the time, like this Sakinyama, as they say, but believes this could represent a significant new target. Here, like Sakinyama, this could represent a significant new target on the property. And it just goes on and on and on. I think you get why I'm so excited, because even though it looks perhaps expensive, I think, first of all, Irving is more de-risked than many people think. The threshold for success might be much lower than most juniors, given that they won't need milling and stuff like that. Hopefully won't need milling and have direct shipping ore, which might give us very high margins. And I mean, all the stuff you've seen from just the first project area, I mean, it looks oh, it might be the most exciting load gold play that I know of anyway. Thanks for listening.